Hello, everybody. This is CJ Wiley with more adventures on the road. I'm headed to Waco, Texas. Last night, some friends of mine told me there was a tournament today down there. I didn't know about it. I'm always the last to know. I don't really follow tournaments very much, but sometimes I just feel like being spontaneous, like every other day. But that's when I had the most fun, when things aren't really planned out the most. I used to play pool that way. I mean, I've played top-notch players and kind of intentionally not played shape real well. I remember I played Jimmy Wedge a lot, and I was giving him the 8-ball, playing 9-ball, and he was one of the top 10 players in the United States. And I beat him one time, and he... afterwards was mumbling to himself just loud enough for me to hear, how can somebody beat me that runs out backwards? And to him, I was running out backwards. Because you see, what I was doing was I was using that touch of inside accelerate system so that I used the same shot speed. I played the same angles. To me, being consistent is doing the same thing, as close as you can, over and over and over. So using different spins and different shot speeds and creating different angles, to me, you can play that way. And he did play that way. That's kind of the conventional way. But it's not as consistent, playing rotation as using that same shot speed. Buddy Hall kind of put the two together. He used the same shot speed, and he played really good position. I'd like to watch him again, with the experience and knowledge I have now. I really haven't, it's been, I quit playing for 7 years, so really it's been the maybe 2008 or 9 since I really saw him play at a high speed. And his, when he was playing really good was more in the 90s. But, I'm going down to this Waco tournament and I don't care how I do, I'm okay. However, and that's the attitude I think is best. I asked Johnny Archer, we were in London at the Moscone Cup, and we were up late one night. And, I like, asking these guys questions that, especially, when you're in we were talking about the Moscone Cup strategy the next day, and we were like in a really creative mode. And so I asked Johnny, I said, man, you were the player of the 90s. You were voted that and definitely earned it. What was your secret? If you could just sum it up, how did you have such a great tournament record? Because I remember, I'd be in a match and I'd see Johnny over there playing Efren. I go, man, I'm glad I'm not playing Efren. And Johnny beat him like 13-4, like in 30 minutes. I mean, and he did that time after time after time. So he looked at me and he said, CJ, my key was just keeping my expectations really low. I didn't expect to win. He said, I never went to a tournament expecting to win. And there again, it's not like you're expecting to lose. It's just that you don't really care. Like, you're okay with the result, because the higher your expectations on yourself, the more pressure you put on yourself. And so it's best to deal with that. I mean, I've got a number of ways I've suggested, that I do it. And it helps, with me, I have to accept that I'm just not playing enough, especially, high-level competition to be able to go to tournaments and be as confident as I used to be. But it's funny, a friend of mine sent me an email and with some thoughts. He's been listening to my videos. He said he thought a real key time in my life was when I went to see Steve Miserak and missed a basketball practice and a game to to see Steve Mizrak in an exhibition. And I was with a friend of mine, and he was going to try to gamble with Steve, and that didn't happen. He was going to try to get the 7-ball and play Steve's 9-ball. But my friend said, that's where I see in your life that you really made a commitment, where you didn't care about the consequences of being kicked off the basketball team. Because I loved playing basketball at the time. I mean, it was just it's a rush, adrenaline rush to get out on that court with a lot of people, and there's a lot of energy, and basketball wasn't what I'd call one of my best games. It was probably, I don't know. Pool obviously was probably my best. Tennis was second. Golf was probably third. Basketball, the key to my basketball game was I was really good from the outside. I had a shot that I made probably 90% of the game, or 90% of the time from the wing position, that I just practiced over and over and over and over, and I'd practiced it since I was a little kid. So, the stroke in basketball and the stroke in pool and tennis and golf all have similarities. And that's why I think I took to those. And I was teaching tennis when I was 12 with this man, Terry Taylor. He ended up being the head coach for Northeast Missouri State University, that finished number 2 in NCAA Division II tennis for all of the colleges. As a matter of fact, their number 1 player is Carlos Norton, and he's a friend of mine on Facebook. There's actually a possibility he'll hear this video. So if you're out there, Carlos, we went to St. Louis. I took him down there to play in a big tournament. He was a great player, and I actually beat him 1 set. That was towards the end of my career. I wasn't as good as him, but I did beat him a set, and that was a thrill for me, because he's from Mazatlan, Mexico, and great player. Him and Manuel Cervantes and Rudy Arrojo. I got the chance to play with all those players because I was the apprentice of Terry Taylor when I was 12, and he used to go around northern Missouri giving tennis lessons. And he took me with him in his 49 Plymouth. This thing had a trunk big enough to put 2 Prince ball machines in. And so I'd go around, and, he'd be teaching, mostly older, from what I remember back then. Of course, I was 12, so everybody was older. Yeah, that's funny, because they were all probably younger than me now. But I'd help him pick up all the balls, and then, he had taught me a lot of, fundamentals that I could help some of the ladies and, the men with their forehands or their backhands, or how to punch their volleys. It wasn't really that complex of teaching. I remember when I was 14, we were in Bowling Green, Missouri, and there was a state patrolman there that liked to play tennis. Norm was his name. I can't remember his last name. But he had one of those speed guns, and I was hitting my serve, and I hit it 92 miles an hour when I was 14. So that was pretty cool. I guess that's pretty fast for a 14-year-old, I would think. But, back to my friend, he was saying, when I made the commitment to go see Steve Mizrak and choose pool over basketball, it was a turning point in my life, because where you get the most power is from resistance, and like it sharpens you up, just like sharpening a sword. You got to have resistance to sharpen something, and that's kind of why I do these spontaneous trips, because it's resistance. Like, I didn't want to have to get up early, and I got to be there at noon. I'm on a late schedule, so I was at Rusty's last night until about 2 a.m. Got home about 2:45 or something. So, but I woke up before my alarm. That's always a good sign. And I just want to, I want the competition. I've been teaching so much the last 3 days. It's just fun to, be on the other side and utilize those skills. A lot of times, even if I don't practice, the teaching will improve my game, especially playing shooter dare. I played that quite a bit the other night with Gavin, and I posted that video earlier of the 9-year-old that was running the rack. That's inspired me too. It's cool to see the younger generation playing. That's why I want to help them to get some of the experience, as much of the experience, at least the positive parts, not the getting stuck up at gunpoint and all that kind of stuff, but especially, playing these shooter dare rules, because it makes you think more. It's more of a cognitive game, and anybody that's going to play it's going to know that. Well, what's going on here? I'm driving, so I can't really read very well. Brandon Schuff, the Schuff. I love teaching. Helps keep knowledge and skills up to par as we age. You're aging? You're killing it. All right, brother. You're killing it, too. Brandon was on my Moscone Cup team in 2012, man. That's where we kind of bonded. And a funny story, I got to tell it, Brandon, is I was at the U.S. Open, and I hadn't played in years and years. And I think it was 2000. The first year I came back, I got ninth. And after I hadn't played for 7 years, I beat Earl in that match. And that's kind of, people still talk about that because Earl seemed like he was so down in the dumps. But what the truth of the matter is, he was wearing 10-pound ankle weights. I'm talking about 10 pounds on each ankle when he was playing me that match. Don't ask me why. That's one thing about Earl I do not understand is the ankle weights and the arm weights and the tape on the fingers. And I mean, I understand trying to do things to help your game, but I just don't really get the ankle weight stuff. My footwork is really important to my game. So if I put ankle weights on, it would mess me up. I wouldn't be able to get in my foot position as well. And I think that's a horrible idea. And if Earl watches this, I don't think he would be, but I would highly recommend to him not to do that anymore. But Brandon, after I went to Q-Master and I was over there practicing, and this young guy comes up to me and asks me if I want to gamble. And I didn't know who he was, which isn't a real good sign for me. So I just presumed he was going to beat me, to tell you the truth. So I think we played a race to 15 for $500, and I just caught a flashback, and Brandon probably remembers it better than I do, but I did pull that one out. And then later I found out that it was Brandon Schuff, and I probably was the underdog, but I didn't know who he was, and I just played him like I was practicing. And that's back to that low expectation. See, it can be negative, if you think you're going to lose, but if you just accept losing, it's a different thing because it frees you up to play your game, and then in the middle of the set, you don't all of a sudden go, oh my God, I could lose, because you've already accepted it. You've already handled it. Because the worst thing that can happen, and here's a scenario that will come up, is let's say you're playing a race to 11, and you get up like 9-4, 9-3, and the guy comes back and ties you up 9-9 or 10-10. That's when it affects you because, you're supposed to win that match, and there's a momentum swing. They come back, and I've played enough matches that I know that I've come back on people a lot of times from kind of hopeless situations. But you see, I know the psychology of it. I know that if I can come back and start getting closer and closer, it starts putting more and more pressure on them. And that's where I'm a little different because, like I said, I have a way of just accepting that I'm going to lose before I play. So then when I play, I don't really think about it anymore. So if I get up 9-4, and Earl Strickland, I'll tell you a real life situation. This is one of the best matches I've ever played. I was at the U.S. Open, and I play Earl, and I ran the first 7 racks in a row on him. I played safe and wedged him between 2 balls kind of in the middle of the table down at the like the head spot. I wedged him between two balls. He had to kick at it 2 rails. He missed it. I ran that game and ran 2 more. So I was up 10-0, and he had that 1 shot. Okay? Well, that sounds like I've got the match for sure, right? Well, see, that's not how I think, because, see, Earl is just as, offensive as I am, if not, I mean, he's definitely done it more because he's played a lot more tournaments. But I could see it in his eyes, and I could feel the momentum change. It was 10-0, then it was 10-1, then it's 10-2, then it's 10-3. And I remember clearly, I was sitting in my chair, and I said to myself, you got to win this match. If you try to play not to lose it, see, there's 2 different mindsets. You play to win or play not to lose. And a lot of people, when they get up in a match like that, they start playing not to lose. So you play more tentatively. And, where you might have earlier taken a shot, you'll play safe. But that's how you got ahead, was taking that shot. You see, they changed strategies. And so I literally had a conversation with myself and said, you have got to play to win. And sure enough, I got to the table, and I had the object ball like on the spot between, or the diamond between the corner and the side, and the cue ball was straight over from it. Now, I've got 2 options there. I could have banked it down towards the corner pocket and played the object ball on the end rail and played the cue ball on the end rail and played safe, gave him a real long shot, and hope that he messes up and I get an easier shot to close out the match. But I knew that if I did that, I still was just probably 50-50 chance of winning. When you're playing guys like that, there's too many things they can do to you to give you even a worse shot. One thing they can do is they can bank the ball in and win the game. That's really brutal. You don't want that to happen. Or they could bank at it, miss it, and get lucky and hook you, or leave you a tougher shot. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen playing safe against champion players, especially when you got them down that far, because they have nothing to lose. See, once you have nothing to lose, that's another thing that I'm saying. When I accept losing, I have nothing to lose. So it's like, when you get your back up against the wall, I just put my back up against the wall to start with. So instead of playing that safe, I banked the ball in the side pocket, went around 3 rails, because the other shot was down on the right hand near the end rail. So I had to make the ball in the side, go around 3 rails to get shape, and I nailed it, and I made it. And, I still remember the nervousness of finishing those last balls, No matter how good you get or how much experience, you're still going to feel internal pressure, internal nervousness. That really never goes away. You just learn to channel it and put it, to focus it. Energy is something you can focus or not, and I've been around plenty of players that I can tell they don't know how to focus their energy. So when they get nervous, you can see it in their eyes. You can feel it. You can see them start to jump up on shots. And hey, I've done it too. I'm never saying that I haven't been exposed to this. And that's some of the reasons that I'm able to teach at a high level is I've already done these things wrong before because I've had so much experience. I was giving a guy a lesson yesterday, and he's about halfway through. He goes, "Man, I'm just a mess. I've got all these pieces out of place," and I had to have a talk with him. I'm saying, "Listen, it's not like that." Because as you put the pieces together, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a way to reassemble your game from the ground up, from the root. Because it is hard to fix all these little pieces if they're messed up. But, if you really understand the fundamentals of pool or anything else, like I learned it a lot in martial arts. I taught martial arts for 24 years, and the body works as a unit. So when I'm watching somebody play pool and evaluating them, I watch where their feet position is, how it's affecting their hand position, and then what they're doing on the table. So feet, hands, what they're doing on the table. And I see that like as one thing, just because I'm trained. But, and this guy, you know, I helped him put his game in a whole, you know, put him in a whole nother position. And when he got in that position, I could see the light go on. And I took 3 pictures of him and sent them to him because he looked like an entirely new pool player, because I changed his foundation and then showed him how it connects to the rest of his body. Because you've heard the old adage, you know, the dog wagging the tail or the tail wagging the dog. I'm just going to tell you one of the things that I see most of the players that are championship level, what they're doing is when they're going down on the ball, they're controlling their body with their head instead of their head with their body. Now, this may not make sense at first, but that's what I'm showing people. And you know, I'm trying to think of how to make this as easy as possible, because it is a little complicated because people don't really teach in this manner. But when somebody's standing up and they're going down on the shot, they'll lead with their head. So their head is going down to the ball, and that makes their perception change to where they have to look at the shot, especially a long shot, out of the top of their eyes. And one of my secrets to the only thing that I ever did that I think I was certainly one of the best in the world at was long shots off the end rail. But see, I don't go down with my head leading. I go down by pushing my hips back. And if you start watching these champion players, you can see it. You got to train your eyes a little bit, but when they go down on the ball, they're pushing their hips back, which makes their head go down as a result. And that allows your upper body to go down as one unit and your neck not to bend down like this. You don't want your neck to go down. As a matter of fact, when I do this and my hips go back, my neck actually goes up so I can see the balls better shooting long shots. Back to Brandon Schuff, he does that. You can ask him. I know he'll do great because that's one thing I still remember noticing with him is he shoots long shots really well off the end rail, and a lot of that has to do with your head position, which controls your vision. But your body needs to control your head, not your head controlling your body. So that's just something that you can look for. And you can see it in any of the champion players, the snooker players too, I think. They go down on the ball differently, but they usually go down. They've got a good head position when they go down. They're really square. I'm thinking more like Ronnie O'Sullivan. And, he's the main one I've watched. I really like the way he plays. I've played against him, not snooker, but pool. He and Steve Davis both. As a matter of fact, when we won the Moscone Cup, Earl Strickland and I were playing Ronnie O'Sullivan and Steve Davis, and I ran the last rack. I've told that story. That was the most pressure I've ever felt in a pool match. My hands were shaking so bad that when I was going down on the ball, I was pressing my fingers into the slate. I was trying to. I felt like I was putting indentions into the slate, which I wasn't, but that's how hard I was pushing in to keep my hands from shaking. Because if your left hand shakes, that's where you're gonna start messing up under pressure. And I watched that match years later, and I would have swore as nervous as I was that I'd be able to see it, and I couldn't tell how nervous I was. So again, it's not trying to not be nervous. It's how to use that nervousness and channel it and focus it into better concentration and the better focus for playing the game. So anyway, now I got to go practice what I preach. So I'm going to go down. This is a handicap tournament too, and I'm going to be probably the highest handicap. I think I got to go to 9 in most of players are going to be going to 6 and 7. So, that's another thing. I just got to lower my expectations because, I got some friends that are 7s in Dallas. They run out consistently, but they're playing racking the 9 on the spot. And I haven't played that way since that U.S. Open I was talking about. When I played Earl, I think they were racking the balls on the spot, or the 9 ball on the spot, because I'd never done that before. And I remember Wade Crane. We went to that Q Master, and he was trying to teach me how to do that cut break, and it was like I just didn't really get it, And that's what these champion players are doing now is they're hitting a cut break. They're cutting the 1 ball and drawing the ball and making it go straight back and forth, and it forces that 1 ball in the side. So I won't have time to experiment with it. So I'll just wing it, But that's when it's fun, Like I said, I love being spontaneous, and what sharpens you is resistance. So I'm going to go down here and just see what happens, and it'll be fun one way or another. I'm sure I'll see a lot of cool people that I haven't seen in a while. I haven't played a tournament in Texas outside of Dallas in a while. There's a big one in Houston going on too. So the best players will be over there. So if I can overcome this handicap, I'll have a chance. But if not, I'll live to play another day. Anyway, this is CJ Wiley. If you want to know more about my fundamentals, physical fundamentals, cjwiley.com. My new game to learn the strong mental stuff and knowledge that I talk about is shootordare.com. It's like truth or dare, but on a pool table. Anyway, this is CJ. I'll talk with you soon.